To pivot a little bit, the other panelists, you're more than happy. Feel free to answer the previous question, but I'd just like to ask another question. It's sort of like the elephant in the room. We've experienced one of the largest voter turnouts with over 90 million voters having voted, and especially being historic in the Black community. I'd like to just ask the panel, in what ways do you think the results of the election will have some sort of impact on the work that you do and with the communities that you're working with?
So I'll jump in and a little bit answer your previous question and then move forward to this one. I think the challenge from the state perspective, again, is, as everybody mentioned, how do you continue to reach communities, particularly those with access issues who maybe don't have access to the internet or reliable access or consistent access, or they're communicating through maybe a smartphone but not a computer. So, you know, that has been a challenge for the state. And we've, you know, figured out some imperfect ways to do it. I don't think there is a perfect way to address it, but I think from the environmental justice perspective and from the perspective of reaching communities that we really needed to reach, right as the pandemic was taking hold, we had just named our first advisory council on environmental justice, which is a combination of frontline communities, community organizations, organizations working on environment, tribal representation, labor, business, really a cross section of folks. And we had one in-person meeting, and then in February, and then in March is when COVID really took hold. And very quickly we went into a triage mode of trying to address a lot of the challenges. One of the key challenges that came up and is relevant to your current question is, you know, dealing with a pandemic that requires hygiene and for you to wash your hands, and dealing with folks who did not have access to water at that time. And so water became a very big challenge, access to water. And ultimately, from the advocates who were part of, you know, a lot of water advocates, but particularly those who were part of the advisory council, really pushed for this. And we worked hard to get to the point where we could, the governor could issue a kind of stay on shutoffs, and also a requirement to reconnect those who were shut off in the midst of the pandemic, because you could not, you know, adhere to it. And where that's relevant to your current question, I think, is it makes a difference who is in office, right? So, you know, I am gonna keep this real, like, my government hat on and not all of my personal opinions. So I have to edit myself as I go. But here's what I will say. I think as we move forward, I think there's a real opportunity to broaden how we look at addressing things like systemic inequities and racism that are really within, so embedded in our structures that many people don't even recognize what they are, right? And so if you have the right people in the positions to help change those, it's gonna really make a difference. And I am hopeful that as we move forward into 2021, we move past this kind of scourge that we're going through, with the opportunity to address some of those within government and outside of government that really serve as barriers to making sure folks have access, that we're dealing with all of the issues that impact environmental justice communities. So I'll kind of leave that there and give other folks an opportunity, because I know we're short on time to respond.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would just offer quickly. I don't think I want to offer too much opinion either about what may come, but I would say that just to the point that you added regarding the amount of voter turnout, especially from the minority communities, it shows that there is an interest and a will to be involved, and perhaps that will continue to be the case even after the establishment of whoever however things may go, is all settled, that there will be a continued interest and a continued will uh, to make some change, you know. And as I work with young people, really trying to, you know, help foster that mindset that you can make something happen, and particularly how you influence your environment and how the environment affects you. I think that, you know, everything that is going on has done a lot to raise the awareness, a lot to make people think about how they can make a change. So I think it's all good in the end.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
This is Lisa. I just want to say we had an opportunity to um, look at candidates in terms of what's been their platform around environmental justice as well as other issues. And folks really appreciated the opportunity of being able to be informed, or figure out what informed means for them. Who you voted for
Absolutely.
is who you chose to vote for, but really understanding, particularly when we look at the ballot that had proposals on it. And one of them was around environment, and being able to understand what does that mean. And so we had an opportunity to get a ballot and explore the position of the candidates, look at how, you know, what is the Michigan Supreme Court looked at, and how have they voted around that, looking at the proposals, looking at, I believe, I can't remember the two things in Grand Rapids City that we were looking at, but again, looking at that and making sure that we understand what are we really being asked to vote for in terms of yes or no. So we were able to have some real conversations around that, and folks got an opportunity to speak to some of those candidates. We invited some of those folks to our farmers market for them to meet community and talk about their position and be prepared to answer questions. So we got a chance to really get engaged around voting, and what does that mean personally as well as throughout the community.
Okay, thank you.
And can I just mention, Deidre, there's a question from Erica Popovich about youth engagement around voting. It was actually to Sultan. But I'd like to say that on the project that I just completed, we had some youth workers, some of them who were not eligible to vote, but they were so enthusiastic, and they approached the I don't vote people with the idea that these youth needed these elders to vote for them on behalf of the youth, on behalf of the future. And I see so much encouragement from the number of young people who are interested in politics, in the environment, in their futures. So we're not raising shallow children. We are raising very, very knowledgeable, open-eyed, woke babies that will be the future leaders of our society. So on behalf of them, we have to make a change. We have to progress. And I believe that they will press us to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. I am concerned about the outcome of what is happening in our electoral process on the national level. I'm concerned about what happens on the state level with people carrying guns into our state house and attempting to intimidate our legislatures. I am concerned about the fact that we're not getting all of the aid and support that we desire, we need, and we deserve from the national quote unquote leadership that we're not getting simply because we have a Democratic governor who happens to be a very strong, intelligent, brilliant leader. So these are the concerns that our children have, that they are looking to us to pressure those that are supposed to be leading and serving us to actually do so. So yes, there is a lot of interest from young people in what's going on, because those that are grounded, those that have a good foundation, those that are woke are really concerned about their future. And we have to walk and lead by example.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for answering that, Maria. You're so right. This is definitely a generational issue. And again, like um, it was spoken earlier, we all just really have to do our part to make a difference. I think that we may be transitioning to our question and answer time. I do have one other quick question for each of the panelists just before thanking you all. Tonight. I'd like to just know if you all have any sort of resources in terms of books or maybe some sort of film or something that you think would be relevant for the audience today. Is there something interesting that you're reading that relates to our topic tonight?
Deidre, we're all so busy. We haven't had time to read.
Haven't had any time. Well, I would like to offer a reading for everyone, if that's okay. I am also teaching a course at Western Michigan University, and the course is titled Climate Change in African American Communities. And I'm currently, the text for that course is a 2014 publication by the author is Carolyn Finney, and it's Black Faces, White Spaces, Reimagining the Relationship of African Americans to the Great Outdoors. And why I think that this title is so important is first, we have to, as a community, understand our value in some of these spaces, and then we can learn to care for these spaces. So I think that I'll leave you guys with that. And then if there are some questions that we have in the chat, I just want to, before we turn it over, thank Regina Strong, Lisa Oliver King, Maria Thompson, and Sultan Muhammad. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys
Thank you.
so much. And thank you for taking the extra time with us tonight. I want to just note that if you're looking in the chat, there are several good books that I'm seeing here. And Stephanie Adam points out that, and Abby points out that Friends of Grand Rapids Parks has a book club, as does WEMIAC, in case you guys don't know that. And they're open to anybody from Toronto to Albuquerque. So because they're all online at this point. So we'll put this up. I think one question was, what was the name of the book again that Deirdre mentioned? And it's Black Spaces, White Faces by Carolyn Finney, 2014. We've got all kinds of other great choices here. We have a lot of really, really good comments here. I think that one question, I was trying to pull out questions. Stephanie from Friends of Grand Rapids Parks asked to Lisa, she said, we get asked about gardening all the time when they're planting trees.
Mhm.
So what help do you need? How, like, where's the connection so that Friends and our kitchen table can maybe make some magic there?
Thank you for the question. One of the things that we do with our kitchen table is that not only do we have families plant their own garden, but we do a food mapping, and that includes identifying the trees that we have in neighborhood and how that ties into the food conversation. So we have walnut trees, we have beech trees. We talk about having the best tree to get leaves from for composting is maple trees. And so one way we can connect around that is really understanding the tree environment, if that makes any, or the tree landscape in community, and being able to tie that directly into how that is a food justice issue.
Great, thank you. I think there's some magic to be made there. Just saying. Sultan, you saw the question about, I'd love to know from sort of a Grand Rapids perspective. I know you work with the students at Innovation Central. So what are you seeing in terms of what their interest has been this fall, and perhaps even what's the difference between last spring and this fall in terms of political civic interest?
Oh, yes. Well, last spring and this fall, the biggest difference is, well, last spring, it seems that their interest was just the fact that they were out of school. They didn't have a concept of what was going on too much last spring, but now as things have progressed and they've been out longer and longer, now they're starting to have questions. Now they're starting to want to know, what's going on, and more than ever, they're really seeking an understanding of how things work up top and how it's affecting what's going on their level, their schools remaining open, or how things are going to go in the future. So I think that whereas before we could never really get students to care too much about what's coming in the future. Now they have been out this long, staying out of school is not so fun anymore. Now many Grand Rapids Public Schools is one of the few districts that is still virtual now, and 100% virtual, and really no telling when it may go back, as cases on the uptick now. So, really, questions a broad range, but now more than ever, they're curious and, looking for administration and staff members to have answers. And I don't say that even as we answer them that they have an understanding, but the questions are up now.
Great. Thank you so much, Sultan. And I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna leave it there, because I think what we've got in our chat are like great comments and great suggestions for people. And I want to hand this over. So our intent was always to provide a networking time. We're going to go back to the evil breakout rooms, but this should be easier this time. If you are interested in staying, I'm going to let Abby Brines tell you a little bit more, and then at the end of that, we'll come back just for a final thing. So thank you.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Abigail. I work for Friends of Grand Rapids Parks as their community engagement coordinator, and I just want to thank all of our panelists first and foremost for their thoughts and for their candor, as well as our breakout session presenters. They did a really great job too, especially on the fly, so thank you all. And of course, thank you to our sponsors. And we really appreciate as well Deidre, our talented moderator, for assisting with the panel. So thank you so much.